All right, listeners, buckle up. We're diving deep today into one of the most, I guess you could say, slippery concepts out there, the Dao. And wow, have you guys delivered? You've sent in an amazing, a really incredible collection of sources.
You have ancient texts, of course.
Right, the classics.
Modern interpretations, too.
I saw that, yeah. Trying to bring it into the 21st century.
And even a lecture, a whole lecture from someone who follows the Dao.
So we're going deep, folks, deep into the philosophical depths. To be honest, I'm kind of pumped about this one.
Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it? It really is.
I mean, the Dao, it's often described as the source of everything, but also, at the same time, nothing. The underlying principle of the universe, but then something you can't define.
Right.
So where do we even start?
Well, I think maybe the best place to begin is to just accept that we can't totally get it. You know, like with our normal ways of thinking.
Okay, yeah, I'm following.
This is kind of what Laozi, the sage, the one who's credited with writing the Dao De Jing, what he was getting at when he wrote, "The Dao that can be spoken is not the eternal Dao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name."
Whoa, that's quite an opener. Like right off the bat, he's challenging us, right? Our normal way of understanding the world. It's like language itself just isn't enough to describe the Dao.
It really isn't. We can't box it in. Not with definitions, not with logic.
I see, yeah.
And this idea, it's not just Taoism, right? Other traditions, spiritual traditions, like some branches of Christianity, for example.
Oh, interesting.
Or Buddhism, they also kind of get this, like the ultimate reality, it's just beyond our description. They sometimes call it apathetic theology.
Okay.
It's basically, you define something by what it's not rather than what it is.
Huh. So it's like this mystery that crosses cultures, crosses religions, this universal kind of, I don't know, puzzle.
Exactly. The more we try to nail it down, the more slippery it gets.
It's like trying to describe what water tastes like. It's everywhere, it's essential, but can you really describe it?
Exactly.
So we're dealing with something that's way bigger than us.
We are.
Okay, so how do we even begin to wrap our heads around it?
Well, maybe instead of trying to define it, we look at what it does. Like the Dao as the source of everything, as the ultimate destination of everything.
Okay, all right.
Think of it this way. Imagine the universe before the Big Bang. Before anything, right? Not just empty space, but this boundless potential, this swirling energy, this chaos.
Okay, yeah.
That's Wuji, the limitless. And then from that formlessness, from that comes Taiji, the great ultimate. It's the first differentiation, like yin and yang. That's where everything begins.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see where you're going with this. So from this state of pure potential, everything in the universe kind of bursts forth, right? But it doesn't just stop there, does it? It keeps going, keeps changing.
Yeah. Got it. It's cyclical. Everything is. Everything arises from the Dao, and then it all goes back to it eventually. This cycle, this creation and dissolution, it's at the core of everything.
It's like, I don't know, like the seasons changing, like life and death in nature constantly happening.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think that brings us to Laozi's idea of reversal, or fan, as it's sometimes called. It suggests that things aren't linear, It's a constant back and forth.
Yeah, it's like the tides coming in and going out.
Or even the stock market, maybe.
Exactly. It's about seeing those seemingly opposite forces and realizing they're actually connected. They're part of something bigger.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting for me, because it's not just some abstract idea, It's relevant to us, to our lives. Would you say that's right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Think about times you've had success, times you've had failures, moments of joy and moments of deep loss.
Yeah, for sure.
The Dao, it's reminding us that these things are not separate. They're not isolated events. They're part of this continuous cycle, this flow. Just like in nature, right? There are seasons for everything.
There are, yeah. Seasons for growth, seasons for letting go.
So instead of fighting against change, the Dao is saying, embrace it. Go with the flow. Ride the waves, so to speak.
Exactly. Ride the waves.
But then that makes me think, if everything is changing, how do we actually live in line with this force, this Dao? I mean, where do our actions fit in?
That's where Wu Wei comes in. It's often translated as non-action, or effortless action.
Hold on, non-action. Does that mean we just like sit around and meditate all day and just let life happen to us? Because I'm not sure that's my style.
That's a common misunderstanding, yeah. Wu Wei, it's not about passivity, it's not about checking out of life.
Okay, good.
It's more like acting in harmony with the natural flow of the universe instead of trying to force our will on it.
So aligning our actions with the Dao instead of pushing our own agenda.
You got it. It's about finding that place, that sweet spot where your actions are in sync with the universe.
Okay.
Like imagine you're surfing. You're not fighting the wave.
Right.
You're riding it. You're using his energy to move forward.
Okay, that makes more sense. So it's less about literally doing nothing and more about acting in a way that's effortless, in a way that goes with the natural order of things.
Exactly. And Laozi, he uses this metaphor of water. He says, the highest good is like water. It dwells in lowly places that others disdain. Therefore, it is close to the Dao.
Water, that's a great metaphor. It's so adaptable, it just finds a way around obstacles instead of trying to smash through them.
Yeah.
It yields, but it's also incredibly powerful.
Exactly. It always finds the path of least resistance. That's what way, It's not about forcing things. It's about navigating life with grace, with fluidity.
So how do we actually do that? How do we embody that water-like quality in our own lives? Because it seems like such a big shift from how we're usually taught to approach things, with force, with determination, with control.
It is, yeah, it's a different way of thinking for sure.
Yeah.
And it even affects how we think about leadership, but we'll get into that next.
So we've been talking about this idea of Wu Wei, this effortless action, this going with the flow like water. And you were saying it even changes how we think about being a leader. I'm really curious about that.
Well, yeah, think about the typical image of a leader,
Yeah.
Someone strong, someone who gives orders, who controls everything. The Daoist perspective, it's totally different.
So not like a dictator, not someone who forces their will on everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's more subtle than that. Laozi, he describes the ideal leader as someone who, well, he says, their existence is barely known by the people.
Wow.
They lead, but they don't push their own agenda. They let things happen naturally. It's like a gardener.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They prepare the soil, they make sure the conditions are right, but they don't tell each plant how to grow.
I like that. That's a good analogy. It's about creating the right environment and then trusting the process. It makes me think of that story we read about Laozi himself. When he left civilization to write the Dao De Jing.
Oh, yeah.
And he was riding a cow, right? But he wasn't riding it normally, was he?
No, he wasn't. He was facing backwards. He just let the cow wandered wherever it wanted.
It's such a striking image. It's like surrendering control,
Yeah.
trusting in nature's wisdom.
It is, yeah.
And speaking of nature, that leads us to Zirin.
Yeah.
This idea of living in harmony with your true nature, in harmony with the Dao. It seems like there's a strong connection between that and Wu Wei, this effortless action.
Oh, totally. They're two sides to the same coin, really.
Mm-hmm.
When we act in accordance with our true nature, our actions, they just flow. There's no resistance. Laozi, he puts it so well. He says, man follows the earth, earth follows heaven, heaven follows the Dao. The Dao follows what is natural.
So it's like this chain of command, but naturalness. It's the ultimate guide. This is making me think about myself. Like what parts of my life are truly me, and what parts are just me trying to fit in, trying to meet other people's expectations.
That's the question, isn't it? That's what the Dao, what it asks us to consider. It's like looking at your life and saying, am I being authentic? Am I being true to myself? Or am I trying to squeeze myself into a box that doesn't really fit?
Mm-hmm.
Think about your work, your relationships, your daily routines, all of it. Where do you feel that sense of ease? Where do you feel that flow? And where do you feel stuck? Where do you feel friction?
That's such a good exercise. I think we all need to do that more often. It's so easy to get caught up in what we should be doing, who we should be, that we forget to even ask ourselves what feels right, what feels true.
It is, yeah. It's easy to lose sight of ourselves. And this idea of balance, of harmony within ourselves and in the world, it brings us to another core principle of the Dao.
Okay. What's that?
This interplay of opposites, this dance of yin and yang.
Oh, yin and yang. That's probably one of the most famous symbols from Taoism. It's that image of the two forces, light and dark, masculine and feminine, all swirling together.
And each one has a little bit of the other inside it. It's not about one being better than the other or trying to get rid of one. It's about recognizing that they need each other. They depend on each other. Laozi, he says, the 10,000 things carry yin and embrace yang. They achieve harmony by balancing these forces.
It's like breathing, right? You have the inhale and you have the exhale, both necessary. Or the seasons changing. Each one plays a part.
Exactly, yeah. And this dance of yin and yang, it's not just happening out there in the universe. It's happening inside of us too.
Okay.
Think about your emotions. You know, you have times of joy, times of sadness, moments of excitement, moments of peace. The Dao, it invites us to embrace all of it, to see that these seemingly opposite emotions, they're all part of the whole.
This is making me think about how we label things as good or bad, positive or negative. But from the Daoist perspective, it sounds like those labels they're kind of meaningless.
You're right, they are. In the grand scheme of the Dao, there's no real good or bad. There's just the way things unfold. Remember that story from Master Chu-Ming Fu's lecture about the rich man, his horse, and his son?
Oh yeah, the one where the guy, he goes through all these ups and downs. He loses his horse, then it comes back with a whole herd. His son breaks his leg, and then because of that, he doesn't get drafted into the army. It's like all this good luck and bad luck happening, but the man himself, he doesn't get caught up in those labels.
Exactly. It shows how our judgments about what's good and bad, they're really just our opinions.
Yeah.
And they can change, over time. What seems like a terrible thing can actually lead to something good, and vice versa. The Dao, it encourages us to accept the way things are, to not get too attached to the outcome, whether we think it's positive or negative.
So instead of clinging to this idea of good and bad, we should try to see the bigger picture, see that every experience has its place in the flow of things. That's a pretty big shift in perspective.
It is, yeah. But it can be really freeing. It lets us let go of that need to control everything. And we can find peace, even with...
This whole deep dive into the Dao, it's really opening my mind. It's making me question my assumptions about leadership, about success and failure, about reality itself. I feel like I'm just starting to understand it, but I can already sense how much wisdom there is in the Dao. It's incredible to think that something like a philosophy that's this old, thousands of years old, can still feel so relevant today, in our lives in the world.
It really is.
And we've talked about so much already in this deep dive into the Dao. I mean, we started with how you can't even really describe it.
It's beyond words.
And then all these concepts like Wu Wei, going with the flow, and Ziren, being true to yourself, and then yin and yang, this balance of opposites. I have to say, I'm kind of blown away by how much there is to the Dao.
A lot to take in, for sure.
It is, but even after all this, it still feels like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, and that's part of it, The Dao, it's inexhaustible. There's always more to discover, always more to learn, more to experience.
That's what makes it so exciting, right? It's not like a set of rules or a dogma you have to follow. It's more like a path you're always exploring. And the more you explore, the more you realize there's so much you don't know. It's like the Dao itself, it's a journey.
Exactly. It's not a destination. And that's really important to remember. It's not about, knowing everything or reaching some state of enlightenment. It's about how you live your life.
Okay, so how you live your life.
Yeah, with humility, with a willingness to adapt to change and to act effortlessly. To act in accordance with the Dao.
So it's not about striving for some far off goal. It's about finding peace now in this moment.
Yeah, that's it. Letting go of expectations, of trying to control everything, embracing change, seeing that it's a natural part of life.
Yeah.
Seeing that everything's connected. It's about finding that place where your actions, they flow with the universe.
That's a beautiful image, isn't it? It's like riding a wave, but it's a cosmic wave. You're trusting the current, finding your place in this dance of existence. It's so different from how we usually think, Like always striving, always pushing, always trying to be in control. The Dao, it's suggesting something much softer, much more gentle.
Yeah, it is. But it doesn't mean you're passive or that you give up on your dreams.
Right.
It's about aligning yourself, your actions with the natural flow of the universe, letting things happen, letting them unfold, and finding ease, finding grace, even when things are difficult, when you're facing challenges.
I can see how that could lead to a more fulfilling life, less stress, less fighting against things, more acceptance, more going with the flow.
And more joy too. The Tao, it's not about denying yourself pleasure or living like a monk. It's about balance. Balance between effort and ease, between action and non-action, between striving for something and letting go.
Finding that sweet spot where life feels like a dance instead of a struggle.
Exactly, yeah.
This whole deep dive, it's been eye-opening for me. I feel like I understand the Tao better now, this ancient wisdom, but it's also changed how I think about my own life, about how I want to be in the world.
That's the power of the Tao.
Yeah.
It's timeless wisdom, and it can change how we see the universe, but also how we live our lives.
Yeah.
So now that you've had this glimpse into it, what speaks to you the most? What are you going to explore further?
Oh, there's so much. I definitely want to read more of the Dao De Jing and try to actually live by these principles, like Wu Wei and Ziran, and maybe even try some of those Daoist practices like Tai Chi or Qigong. Who knows? Maybe I'll even try riding a cow backwards.
Embrace that curiosity. Let the Tao be your guide. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. You never know what you might discover along the way.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, for taking us on this journey into the world of the Tao.
It's been my pleasure. Until next time, may you find harmony and balance on your own path.